step forward.
Hello, everyone. This is another episode of the Then and Now podcast. Obviously, as you can see, we're another man down today. I guess Otis and Ethan just switched out with who's going to be late. It is what it is. I'm going to be here on time. That's all I got to say.
I deserve that. Fair.
Oh, man. But guys, today we are going to go over something that I always enjoy talking about on the podcast, a franchise that is near and dear to my heart, that being Star Wars.
Yes.
And more specifically, The Mandalorian Season 3. We're going to be reviewing it, talking about it, the good, bad, the ugly, and everything related to it that may or may not be coming towards the final. There he is.
There he goes.
Oh, yeah.
You've been coming fashionably late.
Right. But yeah, guys, as we got Mr. Luce coming in, we're gonna start getting into it. Obviously, season 3 was pretty good. I think if I had to say anything, I think the number one word to define the season was safe. I think they were very safe in a lot of stuff. There's some things that I feel like could have been done better, and some things that I feel like don't kind of add up to past lore. But I think they're still trying to figure some stuff out. But before we get into the details of that stuff, I'm going to start with Ethan. And Ethan, give me your thoughts or a general synopsis on the season and what you kind of thought about it.
Right. General synopsis. I would say that it's I agree with you, what you're saying as far as it being safe. I think also it's kind of, this is something I was talking to, was it you, Dev, about how the season seemed to lack a sense of urgency. And we'll get into a POI about how the significance of urgency and storytelling. But basically, the episodes were very episodic and didn't really have that much connective tissue. It's kind of like, oh, this adventure, we're doing this in the desert. It's like, okay, it's fun and interesting, but nothing really too compelling. I don't feel the overwhelming weight of the evil around it. So I would just say that this season overall had a lack of urgency. It was interesting enough. This wasn't necessarily the most compelling from start to finish. However, the ending, I thought they wrapped it up. The last 2 episodes were some of the best content in Mando. So
now that we got Mr. Lelouch V here, Otis, what were your thoughts on the season as a general synopsis?
I definitely agree with Ethan over there. I felt like they were playing it really safe this season. Like they gave us tidbits of things that we wanted, but it didn't necessarily feel like a cohesive narrative that was really compelling to make me like really get into it. I mean, there were some cool things. Like I appreciated them, like the first trip back to Mandalore with Bo-Katan and Grogu and Mando. And then seeing the I can't remember what the creature is, but you know the creature that
Mythosaur.
The Mythosaur. I'm sorry. Yeah. So and seeing the Mythosaur, like I appreciated that, but it wasn't emphasized enough to make it like really like impactful to me. I feel like it was very surface level for a lot of the things this season. Like this newfound loyalty that Din has to Bo-Katan. I mean, it was cool, but I don't feel like it was like necessarily earned. Like, yeah, she pulled him out of the fire that one time, but like they've been working together for a minute throughout this season and the previous one. So I mean, it's not like it was a one-sided thing here. I don't know. Like again, it had some nice moments, but yeah, like the first, I would say 6 episodes were just kind of like blah, and then they amped it up at the end when they got Giancarlo Esposito back and went into the actual main narrative of the season, because everything else just kind of felt like filler.
Yeah, that's it kind of felt like filler. I wish Giancarlo Esposito was more present throughout. I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
No, totally go into it. I guess let's get into it.
Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen.
And by that, I mean the return of the Mandalorians. Obviously, that's probably the biggest thing that anyone that's a fan of the Old Republic or the extended universe stuff, we've been waiting to see a return of like the Mandalorians as a whole, because as we know, they are a major player in Star Wars lore and do some really amazing things. So to see them kind of reuniting and kind of taking back their planet was something that I really wanted to see within the series at some point, and I'm glad we finally got to see that. That being said, I think that the weaker part of it was the stuff going on with Giancarlo Esposito's character in Moff Gideon. Not him as a character. Like, again, I think him as an actor, and I think the character is amazing. But bringing back the character again with a very, what seemed like kind of basic storyline, I guess, like the reason he's the antagonist, kind of, it made sense, but it was kind of, again, like you said, surface level in the fact that he was there to take over the planet initially, and now he's had this love for Beskar armor for whatever reason. Which is weird because I'm like, the universe seems to have this like fascination with it, but he's the only one I've seen that's like adamantly like, I gotta have Beskar, everything is gonna be included in my weapons, my armor. I want all the Mando shit.
Right. He reminds me of like Gold Member in Austin Powers. Like everything was gold.
Literally the same shit. The same shit.
I mean, but let's be real. Like the things that people are interested in about Star Wars, like it's the Jedi and the Sith, and then second tier is the bounty hunters. So like he was already like trying to make clones that are force sensitive. So the next step down is to have bounty hunters that are capable and working for him. I mean, if you can't have the force.
Yeah, because if you think about what that actually is, he's basically both. You're a force user, you're a Jedi bounty hunter, or Sith, whatever.
Right.
So it's like you're pretty goat status.
Which is wild because in the Star Wars canon, for the longest time, it was widely known that you cannot clone force sensitive people. It is not possible to clone force sensitive people because it's pretty much like initially it's like. In like taking mutant powers and like cloning mutants, I guess you can do it to an extent, but you're supposed to only naturally have a connection to it through birth. Like you can't just make people that can have that. You have your outliers and the extended stuff that wasn't canon, like the Force Unleashed stuff. But most of it, for the longest time, the canon was you cannot clone Force sensitives. And somehow they started doing that again. I guess they just either forgot about it or just said scrap that shit. We're just gonna do our own thing now.
Scrap it.
Because now it makes no sense. Because now with Palpatine, why didn't Palpatine just clone himself 1,000 times, or like especially back during the Clone Wars era where you can make clones? Why not clone Maul 1,000 times? And now you have the strongest army known to man. So
there was the lore that had that before the clone. So after Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, there was that time between when in the early 80s up until the late 90s when they did Episode 1, where they had extended stories as far as the original stories for Episode 7 and original extended universe stuff, where Palpatine did have clones, right? Mm-hmm. Did those clones have were they force sensitive? The ones that he was making?
So you talk the book stuff?
Yeah, the book stuff. Also, they had figures for him stuff too. But they were
so
like green.
What he did, he made a clone of himself, right? But he pretty much worked like on Smaruchimaru shit, where he would move his essence from one body to another. So he's not cloning himself; he's just making a dummy for him to get into.
Right? Yeah.
But that's why he was force sensitive in that extent. But you in Star Wars like canon, you've never been able to clone somebody that just had force sensitive abilities like that.
But they were trying, but kept failing. Yeah, like homunculus stuff. Yeah,
because it'd be broken as fuck, like I said before. So we'll see if anybody has the bright idea to actually do that in the future. Because
I mean, that's what Moff Gideon was trying. Like that's what he was
trying over and over. He kept failing. He had so many because he kept failing.
Yeah, he did. Well, he said all of them were finished, didn't he? Because at the end, when he went through that field, I'm like, first off, my whole thing too, getting into one of the issues I have with that last episode is you have a UAV map of the entire facility that you see in your control room, and you can see where everybody's pitter-pattering around, like you got the damn Marauders map from Harry Potter. Why did you not like move your clones or like try to release them early or something? You just like let them get destroyed. Like you stood on the other side. First off, obviously, I think the running trend here that people are talking about as far as the Moff Gideon we saw die wasn't the actual Moff Gideon. He didn't have a mustache. He was like barefaced, which I guess makes sense and a cheap way to continue to bring him in. Which, granted, I definitely didn't want to see him go out like that in a mediocre season like this. I prefer him to die later on in something with bigger, grandiose, stakes. I guess for me, that's just me personally. But it's stuff like that to where me as a Star Wars fan that I've watched a lot of, I've embraced a lot of the content. I'm going to look at it a certain way, so I could be gassing it and how much it's been overlooked. Like you guys may have a different perspective on it because I know you guys have watched it, but maybe not as much extended stuff as I have. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not a Star Wars fan. I'm a consumer of the content and I like certain things, but I would never call myself a fan.
Right. So I mean, I'm between Otis and Dev. I do like Star Wars. There's a lot of content in Star Wars I'm not the biggest fan of, but overall I do enjoy it. I love fantasy. I consider it a fantasy story, and I'm with you, Dev, in the idea that I'm pretty sure we'll see Giancarlo Esposito back, partly because they use the whole idea of the clones. It's like, yeah, they quote unquote destroyed all of them, but we don't know that's all the clones he ever made. And like you said, there may have been Moff Gideon Prime that they killed. So I'm pretty sure he'll probably come back in some capacity. Also, he'll probably come back in the Vader capacity where he may come back damaged. He may come back in that inside that suit. He can't come out of that thing. He may be kind of like, I have to use the suit in order to breathe or whatever it is. So I'm sure we'll see him again in some capacity. I do like the idea that. And did either of you see any of Andor? I think you watched.
I watched like 4 episodes. I haven't finished it though.
I watched it. I finished it recently.
I couldn't hold the interest in it.
That's fine, but what I would say about Andor is a show that's definitely taking more chances as far as like we're not trying to play the same game that the rest of Star Wars does. This is very much about the whole bureaucracy and why it makes the Empire makes you fear the Empire. If you're a regular person, this kind of Gestapo shit is fierce. And the reason I like Andor so much is because it's taking chances. I want the rest of Star Wars to not be safe. Andor isn't safe at all. From the jump, it's not safe. And I want Mando to do the same thing. I want Mando to lean more into actually taking some more chances, doing more things. I mean, how crazy would it have been if Bo-Katan actually had been, or not Bo-Katan, I'm sorry, the blacksmith woman, if she had been full turncoat, if she actually had been working with Gideon the whole time, or doing something different, kind of taking some kind of risks. So I hope that that the other shows take a page out of Andor and do more with their content. But we'll see.
Initially, what I thought was going to happen was because obviously we had the Vizsla ancestor that we saw, like the big heavy dude. He was the descendant of the pre-Vizsla that we saw in the animated series, the guy that was running Death Watch and whatnot. So in my head, I'm like, oh, Bo-Katan like fought against like, I don't know, like his granddad or uncle or whatever it was, like somebody related to your family member. Yeah. Now you got her coming back to run shit. And plus they already kind of showed him as like some form of an antagonist in prior seasons and this season to an extent. So then they killed him. I'm like, okay, cool. And then they also like hinted to the armorer being like you again, like she like do really like weird, subtle, like she just seems evil all the time. Something
was happening behind the scenes with her, and right? We didn't know all the time. Yeah.
Also, something that doesn't match up to me as well is the Praetorian guards. There's no reason that those guards should be like fighting Rey and Kylo full force in like the sequels, but then Din Djarin is able to take them out with just him and Baby Yoda
and a knife. Like he had a knife in his shield.
Din Djarin's an amazing like fighter and a bounty hunter, but Kylo and Rey, as much as people hate on them, they are insanely strong force users and saber duelists. There is no reason that Din Djarin and Baby Yoda should have made it out there.
They barely beat them. Ray and Kylo Ren were struggling. They weren't. It was not easy for them.
Right. They should have murdered Baby Yoda and Din Djarin expeditiously in that room. That should have been a murder scene.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think scaling properly has been a thing that they've tried to do within the Star Wars universe. Like, I mean, you've seen some people be so strong in one place and then can't even function in another repeatedly like that. That's from the original trilogy to the prequels all the way down to the. I don't even like to address the
sequels.
We don't.
I see that a lot with like the Force users. I feel like they've been relatively consistent when it comes to like Force users here. People that don't have lightsabers and use the Force are like down here. Like they tend to get beat the fuck up on anybody with Force abilities.
But the thing about it is too, Dev, is that like you're talking about Force users, like how often do they use, like, I mean, they had that problem in episode 1, if y'all remember. It's like, oh, we can use had Obi-Wan and Liam Neeson or Qui-Gon, whatever. They use a Force speed to go really, really fast. And then the rest of the movie, they never went that fast again. It's like, y'all can go at near light speed. Use it more often, please. Nah, never do that again. It's like, use the Force in your daily life. Do some stuff. There's a part at the end of the movie with Darth Maul is fighting against Qui-Gon, and we see Obi-Wan strutting, like this jogging. It's like, you used the Force speed earlier. This is an emergency. Use it again. And it's like, nah, it's plot. I need plot.
So there are canon reasons for that, but I think those canon reasons came like after the movie. Like, first and foremost, Obi-Wan is like a defensive fighter, which is why like whenever you see him approach a fight, he's never the aggressor. Like he has the perfect defense. That's his whole thing as a lightsaber duelist. He's the perfect defense, and he's there to neutralize targets. And which is why he almost got murdered by fucking Maul whenever he was like really aggressive with him, because Maul was fucking his ass up because he wasn't using his style in the right proper way.
But this is something we've addressed before. It's kind of tangential to the idea of a Chekhov's gun. At the beginning of the movie, we see them using the Force speed, and they're going really, really fast. So at the end of the movie, you think, oh, we know we can do it. We know they can go really, really fast. Clearly, he used it again to get to his master before he dies, like an old man. But he doesn't. It's like, wait a minute, why would you you've already established that speed is one of the things they have. I know I'm going off this tangent for a long time, but it's like the idea of
no, it makes sense.
That's the idea that Otis, I think Otis was talking about too, is as far as the power scaling, getting all kinds of weird or having piccolo effect, as they call it, where a person's really strong in one episode or one movie or whatnot, and for some reason now they had to be scaled down in power so that someone else can get stronger. It's like the inconsistencies are always there. It's part of Star Wars lore.
It works a lot like Dragon Ball shit, where like your emotions can increase the amount of midichlorians and like all kinds of shit, and like your ability to utilize force abilities.
Excuses.
Like, pretty much. Like even then, like when you like outside of Yoda and Palpatine, you don't see a lot of people use their force abilities on a daily basis like that because it takes a lot out of you. Like usually you're using the force to like increase their sensory abilities, their strength, and like the ability to jump. That force speed shit is something that they can't spam outside of like people as strong as Yoda and Palpatine.
Oh, I mean,
again, Mace too, but he doesn't really spam abilities like that. He's very much so technical in like his fighting style. And
but it's funny because in the animated stuff we do see them using it more often. Like for example, with Mace, I know y'all all seen that short they had that on Cartoon Network. It's one of the best things of all time. Mace takes on literally entire army of droids. And he's using the force over and over and over again. Sure, he maybe get winded or tired, but he's using it like crazy.
He's using like pushes and pulls and shit like. But he's not.
No, he's using speed. He's using full speed, like anime slashes through people. He's flash stepping, like he was for sure flash stepping.
And he's like Naruto. It is amazing. It's like, and like we know y'all can do this type of stuff. Do it more often. Why not?
I mean, that's the inconsistency there, is that you only see that content in the animated stuff because it's animated and you got to do some crazy shit. But like in books, in movies. I think the only like games you see it in are like the Force Unleashed, because the whole point of that was him to be fucking as powerful in the Force as possible. But like any other scenario, you don't really see them do that because again, they're Jedi Knights. They're supposed to be dueling here and there, and then you have like the broken people like a Yoda, like a Palpatine they're alchemists in a sense. Where like, even if you look at in the fucking Old Republic era, right, where you get into the people that are the most broken in the Force to ever exist. Most of the people that have those crazy force abilities like that are the people that are like the alchemists, like the what's the character's name? Oh my god. She's tripping me out. She's like a telekinetic that has like the 6 lightsabers. That's the way she duels telekinetically and shit like that. Usually you see people fight. They fight hand to hand and they have like the force pushes and something like the force shields, but it's really strenuous to use that ability and spam it like that.
And that's
So the guy in what's the Jedi Survive is the new one that's about to come out.
Cal Kestis, yeah.
So like, is he like crazy advanced like compared to most knights? Because I mean,
he does
in the game, like you can use it pretty much at will. So like, is he just like significantly above all the other people before him?
I mean, he's using it.
We gonna see, because at this point I don't know about him, because again I haven't done enough research to see like, because maybe he'll have some crazy ancestry or like some kind of like hidden one shit to go with him. I don't know yet. Because that is something that's kind of wild, is that he has all these abilities and he's that advanced without having a master to train him.
I mean, he did at one point. He did. Spoiler alert, he did. And he got
he had one, but he was a Padawan though. He didn't really learn any advanced techniques from his master outside of like traditional stuff. Right. So the fact you're learning like force pushes and manipulating minds and shit kind of on your own is kind of wild to me. Fair. But we'll see. I'm excited. I think we're going to get more, because reminder, the second game is dropping this Friday, I believe. Which buy the fuck out of that. Probably going streaming on the channel at some point and do like a walk along here and there.
Yeah, they're calling it the Arkham City of the. If the first game is like Arkham Asylum, this one's like Arkham City. They're saying it's actually really good.
It's gonna be a huge open world, having like a bunch of mounts and things like that. But the biggest thing is that the stuff that happens in the game is going to be canon for the movies and the games and stuff and the shows going forward. And a big part of the story, if you've seen the trailers, is the clone stuff. So I'm excited to see if they were smart and timed out like the ending of the Mando show with like the dropping of this game, and they both have like clone sub genres or sub things going on in the narrative there. So
I'm sure
I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well, so real quick, I know before we gotta move on. I apologize for the whole tangent, but let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this real quick, both of y'all. You're both grown ass men. Wouldn't it be better and more engaging and more fun as an audience to see the Jedi and the Sith using their powers more? Like actually in fights and stuff. I mean, I would prefer that as opposed to I'm old.
I just think it's budget reasons. Honestly,
it's expensive. It's expensive. Okay. That's why you see it in like the animated series are doing crazier stuff, because it's animated. There's no way you can afford to have like that last fight that Yoda and Palpatine had at episode 3. That shit probably cost all kinds of money to have them blasting force blast and redirecting lightning and shit like that back and forth. I know that cost a lot of money to do that.
True. But I guess the thing is though, if you look at Mando season 3, right? There are a couple episodes even before this episode where one of the kids gets kidnapped by like a giant like pterodactyl type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see a whole bunch of them flying around after this thing. That's a lot of money. Having characters look like they're flying properly in Greece, that costs money. In the obviously in the penultimate and the actual season finale, there's all kinds of cats flying around using all kinds of weapons. So clearly, if they're gonna spend that much money on a show, I imagine they can do something with the movies too. There's no reason to hold back.
Yeah, you're right. But
yeah, I'm sure like in the Ahsoka series is coming out. I think that's in August. Like we'll see a lot more of it there as well.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, because keep in mind too that in at least the newest trilogy, all the dysfunction they had with leadership and like who was doing what and what kind of stuff going on. Like, I'm hoping now that Filoni and Favreau are more involved with stuff. Like, I know they're like really involved with the Ahsoka stuff because that's their child, and I believe that they have Filoni working on one of the movies and some of the other shows. So I'm like, hopefully now there'll be some consistency there. There'll be some more quality there because again, they're obviously fans of the series, and usually when they work on things make more sense. That's why a lot of the inconsistencies with this show, I think they're trying to like set their own groundwork and rules that they can like abide by going forward.
I agree.
Just go ahead and retcon the new ones. It's okay.
They're doing that. Well, they're not doing it because you know you're about the sequel, right?
Yeah.
Or Ray being pregnant.
Yeah, it's a whole other.
Just go ahead and retcon the please.
Like, she's getting 3 movies.
I am begging.
Yeah,
like have her redo those 3 there if she's getting 3. Like just,
what they should do is have at the beginning of episode what is it? I guess 10. Have her wake up have her wake up at a bed like the whole last 3 movies were all big dream sequence or something like that.
Like it's okay. Like just let those go. Like let Harrison Ford show up with her, be like, "Yo, yeah, that was definitely a dream."
yeah. He's alive. Like, hey, you doing? What's up? Yeah,
that was a fever dream. I'm sorry.
You got a force curse put on you by Palpatine or some shit.
Right.
Yeah, COVID. I'm sorry. Your COVID dreams are terrible.
We hit you with the Force Tsukiyumi. I'm sorry. Like none of that really happened.
We're gonna see. I'm terrified. I mean, I feel. Nothing to me will be as bad as that last trilogy with how much they went from like movie to movie changing shit and being inconsistent. But I'm also scared because I'm like, she just found out who she was at the end of that series, and now she's pregnant. I'm like, I just feel like you're jumping a couple arcs here to have her be a mother already.
I don't even know.
And in the pictures they showed, she was like really pregnant. So like, you about to have her this pregnant running around doing force battles and shit.
And I there's so many pitfalls. I really, really, really hope against all hope that they don't find a way to say, oh, by the way, Kylo Ren was her dad.
Oh, I'm so pissed.
It's like people will just riot immediately. But again, if Filoni or Favreau are involved with this series, this trilogy, what have you, I think it's just. I don't see them being that stupid. I can't see them being that. They've never been that dumb.
I'll be so pissed. I
can't see that happening.
I mean, you saw Boba Fett, didn't you?
But I don't think who did that. Wasn't Filoni or Favreau though. That was who did that one.
I thought that was both of them, wasn't it?
No, I'll look it up. I don't think it was. I'll look it up for sure.
As you're looking that up, though, I do want to address the big thing in the thumbnail. The reason, obviously, that some people see Darth Revan in the thumbnail is due to my theory that this is them setting up for the Old Republic Revan stuff. Due to the fact, one, they have been expounding upon Mandalorian stuff, and for anybody that knows, Darth Revan, a big part of his arc as a character is him taking part in the Mandalorian Jedi Wars and like taking a Mandalorian helmet from like a general or a commander or whatnot, and that being a big part of his arc and his like uniform going forward. So I'm hoping that them doing all this here and getting people familiar with Mandalorians and the lore and how they operate to an extent, and then that they've already released a timeline of what the Star Wars timeline looks like now with the High Republic, the Old Republic, the current stuff, the stuff from the Skywalker era and all that other stuff. They have a legit timeline now. And there's a lot of stuff they had on the left side where the Old Republic and the High Republic stuff was. So I'm hoping that we're getting a new trilogy now, but I'm hoping that the Mando stuff was building up towards some Favreau, Filoni stuff that they can do with a lot of the characters from the Old Republic. So like the Darth Revans, like the Darth Malguses, Darth Crates, people like that, or the zombie guy. I'm forgetting his name at this point. I almost called him Mortis. But there's like the Sith.
That's familiar, Mortis.
It's not Mortis isn't the name for it. It's Darth Scion, I believe is Darth. I think is his name. But there's like a bunch of Sith from that moment in time where they are just abnormally OP. Like literally, one of the buddy's ability is that he cannot die. He just internally feels pain and he's immortal. And he's like a zombie where you see like parts of him falling off and shit like that. Malgus is badass. Yeah, it's like there's a bunch of dope characters like that. So I'm like, I know it probably will cost a lot of money to like bring these characters to live action because again, dude's a living zombie, and that probably cost a lot of bread to make happen. But it would, I just know you would have the Star Wars franchise like. I ain't gonna lie to you, they probably like dominate Marvel at that point with how dope these characters are, and they have an overabundance of them from Jedi to Sith.
I feel you, and those would be great characters. I mean, we're all fans of villains here. Villains are the best part, but the thing about it is, you got to understand the brand. The brand of Star Wars is now Disney-fied, literally. So it's kind of like they can't lean too hard sometimes into the darker stuff, unfortunately.
We just saw a dude get like stabbed to death in Endo. We saw a whole dude get stabbed to death.
Yeah, but it wasn't like bloody or anything or gruesome. It was like it's still
it's lightsabers though. They're literally cauterized wounds.
Yeah,
Disney's exploring putting out rated R content. You know, they got the Daredevil series coming out in I think that's 2024 now. And then they're making sure that's gritty. They have John Barenthal returning as Punisher, and so that like they're not retconning that. Like they're exploring it.
Yeah, they are exploring. I hope you all are right that they do, even because I know Star Wars in of itself is meant to be, like Lucas always says, for kids. And Andor is very much not for kids. It's not like it's a whole gruesome, sexy show, but it's very much like these are adult themes, period. And the body count's really high in Andor too. So maybe they actually are trying to push that more. They actually are saying we can dabble, we can have darker stuff over here, lighter stuff over here. I'd be all for it. I mean, you all know how much I love zombies. I made a whole book about zombies, so I'm here for it. I definitely am. I just don't know that that's the brand they want to go with.
I don't think they would care about the body count as much as like the gore and as much as the gore in the deaths. Like as long as people aren't getting ripped apart, you're fine. And even in people getting cut up with lightsabers, there's literally no blood because it's cauterizing wounds instantly. So you've seen people get limbs cut off, like back since the beginning, first movie where shit was kind of looked at in the ratings where they were very much so conservative with that kind of stuff. So there's more blood in the original one. They have blood in legit ones, like in that first movie.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the very first one. I'm caught up in a bar. It's blood, but also with I mean, the part in episode 3, I remember because episode 3 was the first PG-13 Star Wars movie. The part when Anakin gets roasted, literally, I'm not joking. He gets roasted at the end. He's like, that's a man on fire. I saw that with a 5-year-old. He was like, oh, he actually kind of was like creeped out by seeing that stuff. Also, Rogue One, the part in the hallway scene when Vader is just destroying people left and right, bodies left and right. It's not bloody, but it's still very much nightmare fuel on some level. So I guess they are willing to push some things. You're right.
Yeah, so it's not that far to me. But I'm hoping that all this Mando stuff leads to that. But to kind of, I guess, to spin it back towards Mando specifically in this season, one thing I will say about Din Djarin as a character, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I can't pinpoint what his character arc was exactly. Like outside of him not wanting, outside of him being antisocial and then warming up the Grogu and getting friends, I can't point to like anything that he like learned or grew with throughout the series besides that one thing. It kind of feels like he's been the same dude along. They kind of just been using him like a literal plot device to kind of bring in people and do things, but I don't think he's grown as a character too much.
Yeah, he's very much
our character. Not completely flat, but I mean, because he does, the development to being with Grogu and then being more friendly towards other people. There's that, but besides that, like, no, same person.
So he's like, damn.
He's very much. I mean, they did talk about this before. Oh, by the way, Book of Boba Fett. You're right, Otis. It was by Filoni and Favreau as far as the creators. I don't think they directed it, but it was created by them. But what they also said before is how Mando is meant to be. If you guys ever watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or the rest of the Sergio Leone that trilogy with Clint Eastwood, he's meant to be like that character, someone who's almost in himself very much the strong, silent type kind of thing. Because we never see his face. It's meant to be. He's not meant to be. The world around him is supposed to be much more interesting than he is. Kind of similar to Mad Max with the original ones. That's kind of the idea. So he's not supposed to be the most. He and of himself isn't supposed to be that much of a character. It's the world around him that is.
How do you guys feel about that in particular? Because I feel like that's kind of a wasted chance there when it comes to development and like making your world more interesting with that character.
I don't really have a whole lot of a problem with it because, like, I mean, he doesn't really, like, even throughout his own show, he doesn't necessarily talk a whole lot. He's really a piece to introduce like other parts of the, like, he brought us to Ahsoka again. He brought us to, like, some of the deeper themes within the Empire. Now he brought us to what's going on with is that the first order that they're introducing now officially?
Yeah, the first order, like the early beginnings of it.
So like he's a conduit. Bridge. Yeah, it's a conduit. Thank you. He's a conduit to these things, but he's not necessarily himself. Like, because like even within this season, right? I don't feel like he was the main character. It was focused more on Bo-Katan than him. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, last season I feel like it was more focused on Grogu. Like, I mean, it's really only the first season that were really like centered completely around him, and that was just him warming up to Grogu and other people. And since then, he's just been.
So a way I feel like they have an example in their own universe with a particular character that I think is a perfect example of how I feel like it should have went. That being Obi-Wan Kenobi, and following his arcs from the Clone War, or from the first episode 1 through the Clone Wars up until when he passes away. Like through all the different shows and movies he's been a part of, you've seen him change, and his philosophy and how he goes about things change. From obviously being a youth and being overzealous and things like that. That's the obvious arc you get there. Then you go from him being like a young Jedi to being like a teacher and a father, and how he operates there. And then you get into now when he's an old man and he's protecting Luke from like Maul and whatnot. Well, I skipped the whole arc in the Obi-Wan show where he's literally like given up on his purpose and shit like that. Like you've seen him in different arcs, and you can point to like these different versions of Obi-Wan that are different from one another. And like it's not always a positive progression. Sometimes it's a regression like you see in the show, but it's something changing in his character consistently as he goes along, where he's not just the same Obi-Wan Kenobi going all the way throughout.
No, but part of it that's different is Obi-Wan is
the
biggest. He's a character. He's meant to be a character. The thing about Obi-Wan too is if you look at it from episode 1 through episode, I guess episode 3.5 or 4. Well, getting into through the series, the show that he had, basically it's an extended redemption arc for that character, and it kind of does extend up into episode 6 when Vader and him, or episode 4 when he fights Vader again, and then when his son Luke eventually avenges or takes care of Vader. So it's basically you're dealing with a broken man trying to be redeemed. Essentially, that's what Obi-Wan's character is. Din Djarin isn't trying to find redemption. The closer he comes to finding redemption, he has to go and get baptized in those waters, basically for them to redeem him, for them to forgive him, and that's kind of it. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. The Mandalorians are very different kind of people. They're almost like Vulcans in Star Trek, with they're very kind of they're so stoic with their personalities. Obi-Wan is a person who felt like he fell away from grace. Felt like he didn't do what he was. He in a sense like he failed his master. He failed Obi-Wan, failed Qui-Gon. He failed the whole Jedi Order. He failed Anakin. So his arc is very different. It's a person dealing with those type of things.
Therein lies the wasted opportunity for me, though. Like we at this point, we've seen multiple Mandalorians, like from the Clone Wars up into the Rebels, where you've seen multiple Mandalorians that have had interesting arcs, whether that be Sabine, whether that be people on the beginnings of Death Watch, to people on the planet of Mandalore back then when it was in its prime. You've seen where they've had character development. They were characters. So to me, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like whenever I'm writing a story, I don't, especially for the main character that the show's going to be following or centered around, I would never want him to be that stagnant or not be that interesting. It's kind of off.
It depends on the type of story. Because I mean, like in a show like One Punch Man, that works really well for them. Like, Saitama being a flat character, but really being the conduit that makes you emphasize on everyone else around him and the greater world. Like that's kind of how I view Mando as well, Din Djarin, because I mean he doesn't necessarily like get stronger. He just finds ways to continue through and get to the next part of the narrative that they want him to be in.
Yeah, it's similar, like you said, with Mad Max as well, or even it's before y'all's time that show Kung Fu with David Carradine. He'd walk into one town. He was never, even though he's the quote unquote star, it's not about him growing or changing or learning. It's about him just helping out whoever else needs help, and that's it. So I get what you're saying though, Dev. I completely do. It's more fun to, of course, have very interesting main characters, but sometimes the story's about like you said, the star of this season was definitely Bo-Katan. It was her journey. It was her. I mean, the thing was, there were so many times when Din Djarin was in the background while Bo did everything else, like the fight at the end of the that Jack Black episode, which is weird as shit. But that fight she had. episode, man. But
Shout out-
the fight that she had with the other Mandalorian that was trying to lead that squad, that in a typical show that would be the main character's journey. But no, it was like this is Bo-Katan's journey, and also they did her leading the other Mandos. That was all Bo, So it's like,
and he handed over the leadership directly.
Literally said, I'm passing the
Shout out Katie Sackhoff.
That's also a weird thing about this season. Why destroy the black saber? Like, you put all this emphasis on it through multiple series at this point. Like, why just now break it?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. Like, I want to say, like, in the best logic I could come up with is like his need for it to be given to him, because like for whatever strange reason he's like really invested in Mandalorian culture. I'd like to get like an early series of that character, maybe like a Star Wars.
No, I'm not even talking about like his motivation for it. Like narratively, like what does that actually do for your series now that the actual symbol behind the leadership of this culture is now gone? Like,
completely gone.
Why do you choose to do this, and what do you choose? What do you think is going to happen next because of that? Because like,
right.
Well, I mean, if you think back to like the Clone Wars when there was a whole thing, that was an outdated version of the Mandalorians. That was around during war times.
Right.
Like during the peaceful times for like a couple hundred years, it was just like they're a monarchy where you had the queen and they just like lived like British people, I guess.
Yeah.
So like then I don't like I feel like maybe that was a symbol to show that like they're not in those times anymore. Maybe I don't know.
But they established within this show like that's how it was. They said multiple, like others was saying, they said multiple times within even this season, like this is the symbol of power. Whoever holds this, we will bow before, essentially, it's kind of thing.
Right.
And then it was so highly regarded that Mando couldn't just give it to her. He's like, no, she saved my life, therefore she's worthy of it. So it's kind of like, why bother to build that thing up so much just to have it be absolutely worthless? Like, yeah, it's a weird. So
the way I would write it, looking back at like the history of that blade, if you think back on it, that blade has done nothing but cause strife and conflict within the Mandalorian people, from the Clone Wars fighting there with Death Watch or whatever else, to Maul taking it over to whatever else. So the way I'm seeing this blade is nothing but it's like a monkey's paw almost, where it causes trouble wherever it goes.
Sure.
And it causes trouble for your people.
Sure.
So the way I would have written like this season, if you really wanted to have that be destroyed, I would have made that like probably like the focal point of the show. Like they kind of did it in like the second season, but like getting rid of that thing, or that thing being the cause of all that strife for your people forever, and then destroying it, I would have had them like throw it in a fucking volcano or down a pit or something. I don't know.
Or even mention it at the end of the episode, at the end of the finale, they're all there, and Bo-Katan's still up there real proudly, essentially having where he could have the crushed saber there. You can see them throw it into the what's that?
Right.
Kiln, the forge, right?
The forge,
that big forge, because they said that forge is the center of Mandalore. Yeah, there's lots of symbolism there. Have them throw it in there as far as like, we don't need this anymore. This is the Dumbo's magic feather, basically. If they had done that, but they didn't do that. They didn't address.
Kind of threw it away. I'm just like, wow, okay,
like,
that's a big
so
thing
much,
that was kind of just tossed to the side.
Yeah, so then, like,
literally,
I can understand, like, narratively, like, if they would have emphasized that, like, and it been saying throughout the season, like, like what you said, like, this has been causing us so much strife throughout the years. Like, we shouldn't follow this anymore. Like, if Din would have said that during that speech when he handed it over to her, or something along that line, that would have set that up well. You know what I'm saying? But not only did they not reference it, they just scrapped it and was like,
like it didn't happen. Yeah.
Side note, I hate whenever they pick that sword up and like all the people that aren't force sensitive make it like they make it look like that sword's heavy. I'm like, lightsabers are supposed to be weightless. That's the whole point of why they're hard to use, is it has no weight to it.
Right, but so Sackhoff, the thing was, Din, it was heavy for him, but Sackhoff didn't have any problems. She was winning pretty easy.
Right. So that's
is she force sensitive?
No, not at all. So I'm like, why is this smaller, like significantly smaller in stature woman able to sling this thing around, but you swole as hell with all this armor on is able, like, you're having a two-handed.
Like, this man has tanked so much. Like, Din Djarin's fighting style is the same as Rock Lee's, basically. He's like, I'm just going to endure everything you got and then hit you with something.
It makes sense. You're wearing bulletproof armor and saber-resistant armor. Just tank through everything and you're good.
Everything.
Like, literally, even when they killed Vizsla, the only way they killed him was, like, stabbing through the points of separation.
Right.
So I'm like, bro, if y'all don't just start like tanking through blaster fire and like stop. If I'm Mandalorians in that show, which is why they were so like dominant in their era, is because they were so aggressive in their fighting style, and why they were able to take out Jedi like that, because they were protected. This show, I guess it makes sense because they're so far removed generationally wise from the previous like warring Mandalorians, but they're so soft, bro. Like I was struggling with pirates. I was struggling with regular pirates for the longest time in blaster-proof armor, and you have flamethrowers, bombs, all kinds of crazy. I'm like, why are you struggling with these guys?
Apparently it costs like half a year's salary to make one rocket. So I mean, like, I guess they just went broke and didn't have the money to go to war.
Fuck the rocket. You pull up knives and just bum rush these niggas with regular like blades and just stab them to death.
Beskar blades. I mean, they did kind of address that. They did kind of quote unquote hang a lantern on that as far as like we are out of practice. We've been kind of siloed over here in these caves. We don't know what they're doing. We are not like, I mean, the back of the day with the Old Republic, those guys are extremely hardcore badasses. We are not
broken.
Them. We are not them.
I just want that era because all the fighters and every like from bounty hunters, force sensitive people, Mandalorians, regular people, they were all so much stronger and bad, which makes sense. It's a warring period.
It's warring,
which is why I think you just like, you know what, say like, all right, we're gonna finish out the Ahsoka stuff. And then we're gonna scrap everything and just start over from the very
thought they were doing that. I thought that was the point. I thought they were doing Old Republic, but now you're saying that it's like they're following with Rey. I thought they were going to do Old Republic stuff.
So they're doing not Old Republic yet. They haven't made anything Old Republic yet. They're doing the High Republic, which is the era. I think it's right after the Old Republic, which is where the
Yoda's around, right? Isn't Yoda alive then?
Yoda may be alive, possibly. Like I know he wasn't like he's too young for the Old Republic stuff. He could be around for the High Republic era. Yeah. I think that's only a couple thousand years, I think, or maybe a little bit under 1,000. I don't know. Yeah. But the thing that's possible with the Ahsoka series, because in the Rebels they already like played around with the idea of time travel through that Force Nexus thing. Maybe they go back and that's how we get into older stuff. Because at this point you're gonna bring back I almost call him Cal Kestis. You're gonna bring back Ezra Bridger. And he's been in that shit again, and he hasn't addressed that since that happened in the actual Rebel show. It's like now you got him out, you have Thrawn out now. Maybe that's the thing that they address.
My boy.
I really think Mando was like something they kind of like put off on the back burner. Like, then we got to focus on Ahsoka because we have big hitters in this. Yeah, we have big hitters from Thrawn to Ahsoka to Ezra in this. We got to put all our attention to this. Again, that's their baby. So
I'm hoping. But just go ahead and have Ahsoka season end with them all just getting put back in time and them Thrawn saying like, I'm gonna make sure we take over by starting at the beginning.
Have a look at the camera. Have a look at the camera. Like we're starting over.
It's gonna go very badly because you don't like the Sith back then were very much so racist. They were like, you have any drop of Sith blood in you? Oh, like we don't fuck with you like that. Yeah, they will kill you on a drop of a dime.
Yeah, I mean that's why Thrawn's on the other side of the universe. They're still racist too. But it's basically like a crisis point. Oh, no, it's not crisis point. What's it called?
Infinite Earth.
Yeah. With the whole idea with the flashpoint, right? Flashpoint paradox, where he has to like. I'm resetting all of DC universe by doing this. Pretty much have Thrawn say it's a Thrawn point.
Thrawn point. Yeah.
Thrawn point. Yeah.
Hopefully. But guys, let's go ahead and kind of wrap up and give Mandalorian season 3 a rating out of 10. And we can start from the loose V. Since you were late, we'll start with you, buddy. What are you giving it out of 10?
This is 7. I honestly I wanted to be excited about it. I mean, the action scenes were solidly done, but narratively, like a lot of this, I didn't really care about. Like it was cool. Bo-Katan was there. I can't really say she had a necessarily great performance, but she didn't hurt the show either. It's a 7. It wasn't bad, and the ending really carries it. Like without those last 2 episodes, I might give this like a 4, but with them, it's a 7.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, I'm giving this a 6. I'm giving this a 6. I think obviously the bright spots were Katie Sackhoff stuff and Bo-Katan. I thought it was dope to see her get more development because I didn't think she got enough in the Clone Wars stuff. Always great to see Juan Carlos Esposito take on that role again and beat Moff Gideon. I always think whenever he's on screen, it's great, which is kind of sad because he didn't really get a lot of airtime in this show. Baby Yoda, although he didn't do a lot, He's there. That's all I ask from that character. Like until you can speak and do
He
cool
was
shit.
he was the full comedy of the season because like him
Right.
and that droid was hilarious.
Hilarious.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
R5?
No.
Yeah, IG-11 remake or IG-12, IG-12.
And that's another fire callback. I don't know if you guys know, but that droid that Djarin had, that was the original droid from the first movie that broke down whenever Luke and his uncle went to go buy R2.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because they initially went to go buy that droid and he
didn't
fucked
know
up,
that.
and then they got R2 instead.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had no
Okay,
idea.
Yeah, so that's like a cool callback they had there.
that's cool.
So again, stuff like that and that piece of love is why I give it a 6. I think from a hardcore Star, I'm not a hardcore fan.
Your core is pretty hard.
Nah, not enough. I haven't read all the stuff. Like I'm only interested in like the Mandalorian and the Force sensitive stuff is where I'm at. As far as
That's all you should care about because like
Yeah.
I don't care about bounty hunters and
if it's made
ice
well,
chasers.
if it's
Thrawn-
made
Thrawn-
really
Thrawn,
well, maybe.
Thrawn books.
If it's not a Sith or a Jedi or a
Thrawn.
or Thrawn is the villain. Thrawn is the villain.
He is, but he's like
Or
he's
Lando
caring for me.
Calrissian. Or Lando Calrissian.
Orlando.
Oh, you care about that Lando movie?
Yeah, I watch it. Yeah.
Is that real? Is that real though? Is that
No, it was. He didn't have his own movie. It was in the Han Solo movie. That's what it was. I'm tripping.
Mm.
No, I thought they're doing one or something.
Yeah, if they do one, I watch it. Like
I'll watch it.
I watched it
Yeah.
for him. I watched it to support him, probably.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah, because he
Yeah.
beat the star. Yeah, he beat the star.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, okay, so for me, I'm actually going to agree with Otis. I'll give it a 7 as well. It was what they always say is if you can nail them with the ending, you got them. The ending really did those 2 episodes, and also overall though, even like in the first episode or 2, the CGI budget, the budget of this show is definitely gone up higher. I mean,
They
the
paying
monsters
money
and stuff
for
look
that.
better in this show than they
Mhm.
did in the movies sometimes. So it's like, okay, I see you. I see what you're doing. I see
But that
you.
Mythosaur looked fire. I ain't gonna hold you. I was like,
Mythosaur
God,
looked great.
damn.
visually speaking, like the graphics in this are the best that they've been in any live action Star Wars, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I can't say it's better than the third. Like Yoda in like that prequel trilogy and like his fight with Palpatine looked fucking
Oh
crazy.
no, it's go back and watch that. It looks like a PS4, a PS3 game. You can tell it's CGI. Like I mean, there's parts in the first episode of season 3 where they're fighting that weird like giant crocodile. There's parts where it looks like an actual like animal creature type of thing.
No, I'm just talking about like just the Yoda stuff and that final fight with Palpatine. A southern accent kicked out for a second. Palpatine, like that to me was some of like the best live actions like CGI animation I've ever seen. That shit was dope. The fight was amazing. Yoda looks amazing.
I mean, the choreography of it is amazing, but the actual graphics of it compared to
Yoda.
today, I don't think it
no,
holds
no.
up.
You can tell.
we gotta rewatch that. That's something. Well, I don't
No,
know. I don't know
that's
if we
fine.
get-
That's fine. I mean,
we
I'm
copyright it.
not knocking anything, but it's so I think that thing I'll give it a 7 because of that. They said that they with the budget they took it up a notch. They did a good job with that. And I liked seeing the even the dog fights in the episode where they were trying to that guy that looked like the Swamp Thing was trying to take over Apollo Creed's city. The dog fights were still pretty cool. The actual fights, when they had those fights in the actual last 2 episodes were great. So I'll give it a 7.
Just what, like if Star Wars just makes a series just completely dedicated to hallway fights, like I think it'll be the greatest thing ever.
You're not wrong though. You're not wrong. Because that hallway fight with the laser shields, I was like, dang.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Buddy's like
just do
slaughtering.
that. Just do that.
A
All
whole
the time.
that'd be badass. That'd be badass. I
Buddy
would
is-
love that. love that.
Before we take off, guys, I had a little impromptu game that won't take too long.
Yeah, you do.
For lack of a intro or even a name for the game yet, I'm just gonna lead in with this.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
In saying
My
that,
interest. You've got my interest.
in saying that, I think that a lot of people within Hollywood try to make things very difficult, and I feel like if you let fans play around with some stuff here and there, I think we all said we can come up with better stuff. That being said, this game is essentially going to be you building, I mean, not the perfect, but a really good franchise. So you are going to take a franchise, whether that be a game, movie, whatever else, whatever you want it to be. You want to pick a star lead actor to lead that franchise. You don't have to pick a particular character, but you can just pick that star actor and a director for it. You can forget all the writing and stuff now, but just like the perfect trifecta of franchise, actor, director that you think will make a really good franchise. If they were to do like 3 movies, I guess max, we'll probably say 3 movies.
Okay.
For example, for me, I think that I would like to go the route of Mass Effect as a franchise.
Of course.
Have John Boyega be my leading star for that series, and I probably have Ryan Coogler direct that franchise.
To my director.
Not writing it, directing it.
You took my actor. I was going to put John Boyega in something else. So.
Yeah.
That's why you went first. All right.
Yeah, that's for sure why you did that.
You go. You can go.
I am putting. Well, to be me, I'm putting Michael B. Jordan in Briarlands, and I'm directing it myself.
Okay, I was gonna say how
Chico, don't cheat. Come on now, don't do that shit. We really podding right now. We really podding right now. Come on.
So
now.
if you can't use, because obviously Briarlands is something that you know. If you can't use your own own material, put that
you get a live action Chaos movie or some shit like that.
Yeah, it can't be. Yeah, you can do that.
No. If I'm gonna do a mech series live action, it's gonna be Gundam. Like it's not that.
Which one? Which
I'll do Gundam 00. I'll probably take Steven Yeun as being my main character for that.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
And who am I taking for my director for that? Because they got to be. I'll take Spielberg. Because I want somebody that's used to doing some grandiose stuff. So that's mine.
Literally, him and Nolan were like the two dudes I thought about at first for the Mass Effect one because I was like sci-fi shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, my bad.
No, you clean. You crisp. So I'm since Otis, y'all tell my people. So what I'm gonna do then? Damn, you took my people too. Shit. I gotta double down. You know what? Otis, what's the dude's name? He was also in he's in Bullet Train, but the show was is it called it? Damn it, I can't remember the name of the show now.
The old samurai from Bullet Train?
No, so in Bullet Train, right, that old samurai had a son. That son was in a show on like HBO and in Cinemax originally. What's that show, Otis? We talked about it before. Remember that dude? It was like because the show is set like in the 19th century where he's like he's an immigrant to the US and he's a whole bunch of fighting. He's a martial. He's a Japanese martial.
Oh, that guy, the one that's in Kung Fu. Yeah.
Yeah, that dude. The one that should have been Spike Spiegel, basically. In the live action.
So like no brainer. He was Spike Spiegel.
He was basically Spike Spiegel. So that dude, I would have that dude and have him play. If not, he may not be the right casting, but I want to do a Baki series with a young Japanese dude. I mean, he's probably too old to be Baki. He's 18 or whatnot.
You don't have to play the main character. You just has to be the leading role in it.
Okay, fair enough then. So I have. Okay, I think we can do that then. How about we have let's do that dude, the old samurai dude that he was the guy that was Scorpion in the Mortal Kombat movies, right? Have him as Yujiro Hanma in the Baki series or trilogy, whatnot. But here's the thing, fam. I want it directed by David Fincher. You may be saying why David Fincher? Because Fincher did Fight Club, and Fight Club is grimy, dirty fights. That's what I want for Baki. So
is that really dirty grime? Well, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, they get real grimy on those cardboard boxes.
If I'm doing something with a lot of gritty fights like that, like stuff that you want to be real technical or close, I'm probably getting the Russo brothers.
I can see
the Russo brothers.
Yeah,
I mean they can. I don't know if they go grimy. Did they go grimy?
Yeah, you remember what was that one movie on Netflix that we did? Where,
it was great. Yeah, the Gray Man. I'm not sure if that's grimy. Like
that last fight where they were like stabbing each other with knives.
Yeah, it was good. It was really, really good. I don't know if it's grimy. I mean, I love the Russo brothers, so we're fine. We're all good there. But
side note, hey, if they get on this Batman project, I ain't gonna hold you.
Batman and Brave and the Bold. If they do that,
wait, is that what it is? It's Brave and the Bold?
Yeah, it's rumored that they're gonna do that.
I thought it was Superman.
Bro, I know Damien's about to go nuts. If they're directing that, Damien is about to be stupid.
Yeah, that happens. You got my money, Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I'm already gonna watch it.
I already got my propagandist, Damien being the best Robin. Let him get some fire ass gritty fight scenes in that. Oh, I'm
if they got to go R, if they get an actual R.
If they get an R rating and give him a sword, give Damien a sword, just let him fuck people up.
Can I end this on something just minorly controversial? Just like a tad.
Okay.
Please.
How do y'all feel about, you got this Flash movie that's getting ready to come out and everything that's going on with Ezra Miller versus the blowback that we've seen towards Mr. Majors.
So I will say, in both of these situations, 100% of the truth is not out, and I am not going to be like, I was very happy that I was not the dude to jump on any side of the Megan Tory situation too early for shit and let all the proof come out.
Right on.
For both things, like with the Ezra Miller thing, I know more information came out about like the girl being like 18 or freshly being 18 and her leaving, but her parents felt some type of way about it, so they said they put a whole bunch of cop stuff out on them where she was legally grown. So I don't know. He didn't like kidnap her like it was like initially in the media they were talking about him kidnapping her and all kinds of wild shit. And even with the Jonathan Majors thing, the first woman like dropped, like she came out with 2 written testimonies saying she didn't do that didn't happen that way, and then you have the audio stuff of her saying that she didn't think it would happen like that. I got to get all the evidence for the other woman that'll come forward. I got to see that because there's a possibility that that's people looking for clout, possibly.
So
we need evidence though. I need to see hardcore like evidence that says he did this thing, or like you have to be some Cosby shit where you just have an overwhelming number of women.
That wasn't necessarily my point. My point was that in both cases, they are still unconfirmed, but you see Majors getting dropped from like everything. Meanwhile, Ezra Miller has a Flash movie coming out. Like, isn't it that's like this weekend or something? Like, isn't
no,
it's in June. But like he's got an upcoming Flash movie. Like,
I mean,
about to drop.
Look at well, first off, the other projects Major's getting dropped from is like unrelated to just like Disney. Like it's his team and other like American, like the army shit, like random shit here and there. Look at who's running the DC shit now in James Gunn and the controversy he had with shit like not too long ago. Like
the tweet?
I mean, but Disney hasn't dropped them yet. Like they actually are like one of the people like holding strong until like there's more evidence.
Yeah. But that's my point though of like why one guy's getting dropped from shit and this one guy is not getting dropped from the one big thing he has. It's because the dude that's running it went through his own controversial stuff. And I don't think any hard at this point, maybe I don't know if it's still going on with it or if it's like done with now. No hardcore proof that he just kidnapped this girl and did wild shit that people said he was doing is out. It's just,
but that's what Otis is saying. That's what I'm going to say right now too. Is the idea of because we try to say innocent until proven guilty. Although that's always it's obviously bullshit when it comes to black folks. We all know that there is footage of Ezra Miller literally choking out somebody and like choking it out to the ground. That we've seen that was last year or sometime a while ago. That actually happened, and then they made they're non-binary. They made the Flash movie or whatnot, right? So they didn't get fired then. They should have. That didn't happen. All the controversy as far as the idea of kidnapping, whatnot, all these things that may be speculative, the speculation still didn't stop them from getting work. Jonathan Majors, there's supposedly all kinds of evidence showing that this woman was coerced into actually saying that he attacked her, and there's actually there's a witness in that the cab driver or the Lyft driver is like, yo, that didn't happen at all. He left. He specifically did not attack her. She was attacking him. He left. Whatever it might be, though, the idea that Jonathan Majors has basically his accusations against him, and these accusations are getting him fired from projects or removed from his label, like his actual PR team and his actual management, they dropped him from accusations. Not instant to proving guilty because of by vocalization. And Ezra still getting work. That's some bullshit. To answer your question, Otis, that's some bullshit.
Oh yeah,
it was okay, James. It was just okay.
Oh god, me answering the wrong question. I will say we know what it is. Like at least us three, we know what it is. As far as like people getting second chance, like RDJ got a second chance. Well, probably multiple, like a fifth chance, honestly. With Iron Man role,
he did serve prison time too. He did serve some time.
True. So how long did it take for Wesley Snipes to get any roles after
3
the
years?
whole 3 years?
Right away.
Did he do anything?
No. He went to prison for 3 years for taxes, and then right away he got some roles. He was in Expendables 3.
Yeah. So I will say like I'm not gonna act like black folks that mess up or potentially mess up haven't got any second chances, but I will say that the thing with him that I think probably scared a lot of those people is that it's not that the original woman, Ethan, that's messing with him. It's like the fact there have been more women that have come up. So maybe they're scared of a Cosby situation where like he gets the one.
Yeah, I think James hit it right here on the head.
Probably, Probably because the fact that
that's
the
true.
Flashpoint, everything's getting reset, so maybe he doesn't get
Can't.
rehired.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if James Gunn had him around. Just again, they're controversy bros when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I'm the one on the side of you're innocent until proven guilty, and I think in a lot of cases, in America especially, that's not the case.
No,
for any kind of
no.
I'm not gonna say any, mostly brown people if we're keeping it a buck, but for majority of people, it takes a rumor, it takes a random picture or voice thing taken out of context. Or Johnny Depp, like when Depp had all that shit go down and he got removed from everything off of nothing, and then he had like the hardcore evidence that he was crazy. And even then, they still didn't like reimburse. I don't think did he get reimbursed for all the money from roles that he lost from like
he got like 14. Was it 14 million Otis from the court, the civil case?
That's it.
I mean, I've got millions of dollars. It's the thing is, it's not like the roles he lost was worth a lot more than 14 million, but it's like that's pretty much like the amount he got in the settlement or something.
I feel like he would have got more than that in like a Pirates of the Caribbean movie with Disney. That's Disney money, baby.
That role too. Yeah, he did. Yeah. But I mean, he's still rich. He still has an island. He literally has an island, man. We talking about. I don't have a kitchen in my apartment. He's been here before.
To me, Depp has been rich for so long. Like he's not necessarily missing those roles, but at the same time, like he definitely would have made a lot more money. He
would have made more money.
Because to me, it's the principle. Like the fact that I could have been working, could have been doing stuff that I'm passionate about, but you lied on me, so now I can't, and now I'm forever lost to those. They probably take him back if he wanted it, but he's probably like, no, fuck you, because you dropped the ball on me. Yeah,
it's the blows to the reputation too. Like, I mean, it's like, it sucks. I'm sure it's all happened to us before, where you get accused of somebody of doing something you didn't do, and how much that sucks. Like, especially if it's a woman or whatnot. It's like, man, this is, and you were just tainted for who knows how long. That shit sucks. You brought up RDJ. RDJ, he did do those things. He was using drugs. He was breaking into houses to do stuff, and he actually did have to go serve jail time or prison time for it, and he had to apologize for it. So he actually. Yeah, justice was served that case.
And that's never gone. Like that rumor, even if you beat that rumor, it's always going to be something people are going to question forever.
Yeah, they always question it. You always question it. So it's hard to fight that kind of stuff back. I mean, like we said, we want to be innocent to proven guilty, but it's not always that way. I'm not sure if y'all even remember Chris Hardwick, the whole idea that his ex-girlfriend tried to say something and he lost his show, lost a bunch of it, lost his podcast, lost everything. And it turned out, it's by the way, that's false. And finally it came out. It's like, well, all the damage is still done. So it's all it takes is someone to blow a whistle, regardless of whether it should be done.
I want to hope that John Majors is completely innocent of all this stuff. That's what I hope, because I love him as an actor. I think he's been doing amazing stuff for Black people as far as representation goes and this quality of acting. He's an amazing actor. So, hey, I'm fingers crossed that Buddy is not a horrible human being.
Yeah, I just hope that in the case they don't try to use his footage as in Creed 3 against him.
Oh my God,
that's not really how he is. He is acting like he's just strong.
You are a nasty month, bro. Hold on. All right, let's.
Hey, I'm saying if they're using rap lyrics against people, I mean, film is not too far off.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
fair enough. Yeah, guys. Again, hear ye come around. Church services, church announcements. Stuff's being worked on. That's pretty much all I got to say. I know we've had a lot of projects that we're starting to work on and either get finished or get ready to announce some stuff potentially that we are going to be working on or associated with. So again, we ask for your patience and hope that you continue to tune in and support the Then and Out podcast. So guys, we thank you for your support. We hope for your continued support, and we'll see you guys next week for another episode of the Then and Out podcast. Peace.
Yeah, I'm not gonna throw the shade this week. My shade is too dark. I'll say that for after the show.